Alright, these are a few projects I've done some work on recently, and I'm going to do a little bit more, and I'm going to shoot a video and walk you through what I did. Basically, on these are axe handles that I made. Started with some boards, hardwood boards that I got at an auction. They are already dry, in pretty good shape. So we cut out some patterns, and I took a couple of old axe heads that I got at the auction. I cleaned them up, and once I cut out the pattern that I wanted, I did a lot of handwork and kind of fashioned them the way I wanted them to be. I plan on doing another one. This one's going to be on a axe head that I've had for a little while. Did a little work cleaning it up. I'm going to clean it up a little bit more. Take it off this old handle that it came on when I bought it, because as you can see, it's starting to want to come off all the time, and it was hung very poorly with just a bunch of metal junk in it. So I'm going to do what I did on these here. I'm going to fabricate the handle, and I'm going to use a good wooden wedge that I'll fabricate myself so that we don't have any metal in there. So I'm going to fabricate, instead of doing a couple shorter handles like I did on these, I'm going to do a longer handle to replace this one. And then this here is a project that I took because I needed, as I was working, I needed a wooden mallet, and I didn't want to go buy one. So we just recently had a real heavy snowstorm here, and it was a little unexpected. Broke off a lot of limbs, especially softwoods and pines, but it also broke off a couple of big maple limbs. So I decided, rather than waste the maple, I was going to turn that into my wooden mallet. So this is a branch fabricated basically into a wooden mallet, and I'm gonna do another one, and I'll show you how I did that too. Well, as you can see, the top here is being a little difficult. Was able to just use a screwdriver and got underneath a couple of these nails that somebody threw in there. Some wedges in there. Trying to get those out is a little more difficult. So I'm gonna grab my handy saw, a small drill bit. I'm gonna work these edges with the drill bit. Try to take a little of the wood matter out. Hopefully that'll loosen it up enough so that I can get that backed out of there. Alright, here we are. I was able to finally beat that handle out of there. It didn't come out easy, but it's out. I like the length of the handle for that axe head, and I like the shape. So I've decided I'm going to use this as my template. And as you can see right here, I've done an outline on this board and use this as the template. As you can see, this is just a good thick chunk of hardwood. I believe it's ash. Could be wrong, I don't know. Anyway, works well, and hopefully it's good and functional. So nice hardwood, and got the template on there. I'm going to use my saw to cut out around the template, and then I will start working it down into what I think is a comfortable handle for me. Yeah, here we are. Just out of curiosity, if anybody's curious, this is the saw I used. Yeah, I tried to use hand saws once, and this wood is incredibly seasoned, incredibly hard. So I found a little electric power was not all bad in doing this. Then, as you can see, this is the original that we took out, and this is my blank. It's been cut out of the board. And as you can see, she is as square as she can be. But that's the blank, and it gives me at least the general shape. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my shave. This is an old shave. I got it at an auction, and when I first saw it, I thought, well, that one's probably going to go on the shelf, and I'll use the other ones that I got, which were newer. Turns out this one works far better than any of the older ones. Got me a chisel, got me some rasp, these are the primary tools I use. Every once in a while, a saw, you know, my wooden mallet I made, a chisel, some of that stuff, and we'll work this into a beautiful handle. All right, something I do want to point out before I go too much further. As you can see, I got my blank sitting here in the vise. One thing you want to do when you lay out the pattern on the board is do your best to maintain the grain of the wood as far down this handle as you possibly can, trying to run it all the way down. The longer you can run the grain, the stronger the handle will be. If you end up getting the grain on too much of an angle coming across this way, definitely don't go crossways this way, but make sure that grain is running down the length of the handle as far as possible. That'll strengthen the handle. And stay away from if your board has any knots or flaws in it. You want to make sure that you steer clear of those. You want the wood to be nice and clear of defects the entire length of it. Alright, I've got my blank in the vise, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a little bit about how I shape the handle itself. I work on this handle with a draw shave, rasp, chisel, whatever I need for whatever particular section I'm on. But what I'm going to do is I'll show you a little in a second here how I start to shape the back of the handle, and as I go through this process, I'm going to show you how I shape this handle to fit my hand size. And that's one of the great things about making your own handle. As you go, you can create it as thick or as narrow where you want it as possible to fit your hand for the purpose that you're building the tool for, or for the handle for. So I'll show you here in just a sec how I do that. This is the draw shave that I told you that I picked up at the auction. One of the best tools I found there so far. And this is what I do. Shaving it this way allows me to get the rough shape that I want, and then I can start using some of the rasp and some of the finer files, ultimately working all my way all the way down to sandpaper once I get close enough to the finalized shape. But this is a great tool. If you have a draw knife, those will work fairly well. I find with hardwood like this, because it's so hard, that doesn't tend to work. It works a little better with green wood. So I find that the draw shave works better. So that's what I'm going to continue to work on, and then I'll come back and show you the project a little further down the road. Alright, I'm starting to shape some of the handle, and got the blank here in my vise. As you can see, I've got a curve here and here, and there's a little bit of stuff here, rough edges, and this is where I have a rasp. I have a pile of rasp, but this is one of my favorite ones that works very well. Flat on one side, curved on the other, so it will help you, depending on where you are on the handle, to work the curved angles or the flat edges, whichever you want at the same time. And I just fabricated a little handle for it, and so what I can do is when I get into use the curved side, get in on these curves, I can take those rough edges that are in there and I can clean them up. Take these edges here up around the thing that obviously we want those curved, we don't want those blunt, so work some of that right off. I'll round these edges, and I'll continue to turn this handle, and as I turn the handle, I'll just continue to work these little rough spots and smooth it right out. Here's a quick look at the end. I've worked it with the rasp all around like I said I was going to. You can see that I've worked the edges so that they're somewhat rounded. You can still see right here a little bit of the the edge of the live cut wood. So you can tell I haven't taken a lot of that down, but I have curved the back and the underside. And as you can tell, it's not perfect. You know, it hasn't taken a perfect shape yet. I've used the rasp on it. The next thing I'll do is I'll get some sandpaper and I'll work that into a nice finish, I hope, and continue up the handle to the head. So what I've got now is I've got the handle pretty much done up, and now I've just got the head set right on the top of the handle, because I want to start the process of getting the head here of the handle prepared to go into the axe head. So what I'm going to do is I've set this on here and set it so that it was square on the top, aiming forward, because obviously you want to keep the symmetry of that handle in line with the head of the axe. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach down in there with a pencil. I'm going to create the outline of where that should be on the top of that handle, and then use that as a general guide to then shape the top of this. And what I'll do is I'll set the axe head here, come down, make a mark to show the depth that I need to have the chamber go all the way up through the head, so that it comes to the right point at the top. And then I will work this piece here down to it, to the mark, and we'll shape that. So that's going to be the next step, and I'll show you a couple little pieces. Alright, here's the top, and I've placed the axe head there and created a rough outline. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take a saw and I'm going to cut this down the depth that I need, and then I'll cut here as well, cut these chunks off that I don't need, and then I'll use a rasp or whatever tool I need to take off as much as I need to get that shaped to come right up into that axe. Here's the handle. Here's the shape I want to saw around. There's the mark. That's the depth that I need for the handle to go. So I'm going to work the handle down that far. So I'm going to take a saw and do some cutting on this here. Cut these edges off, get a rough shape, and I'll come back. Here it is. I've made a pass at it with the saw a few times, and I've taken that rough shape down, and now it's going to be a lot of rasp and rasp time on this thing to basically shape this. And I'll just keep testing the head, putting it up there, measuring to see where I need to take off, until that head will slide right down on there in a good snug fit. Alright, here's the slot that I've been working on forming. I've worked around that outline of the pencil mark, and I've got it down to that spot where we marked it at the base of the axe head. And then what I can do, I can slide this on here, and you can see it'll start gets to a certain point, and then it'll set right in. And I've had to work that quite a bit in order to get that to fit on there as snug as that. And you'll see right here there's a little bit of a rub. As you put this on, you'll see that it'll start rubbing in different spots, and you can tell that that's kind of where you need to work a little bit more with the rasp. And the only other thing I would suggest is, as you work, just be real cautious that you're rasping this evenly down the length of this. Don't let this end up narrower than your top. You want to make sure it tries to stay nice and square as you do it, so that you can, once that axe head slides down, it'll be snug in against the sides of the axe head all the way down the surface. Because once we wedge this, we want that to get as much bite as possible. So there it is. It's all formed and ready for the axe head to go on. The next thing I'm going to have to do is cut a slot in it for the wedge, and I'll show you how I do that. And this is what I'm doing. Got a little back saw, and I just drew a line right from the very point of this to the center in the back, and now I'm just going to saw a split down this all the way down to this base. I'll show you what it looks like when it's here we are down at the end. And as you can see, we have a split all the way down to the piece here, the flat piece. So that axe head will sit all the way down there now, and the next thing I need to do is shape this handle from here to here and get rid of all of this lip, and we'll start with a chisel on that part of the process. I'll show you what that is. Alright, what I'm going to do is just show you briefly here what I do with the chisel and my hammer. I start down here and I just start chiseling a slight angle upward until I come up and come flush here. And then I'm going to use the rasp, and I'm going to use some sandpaper and some other tools to make it nice and smooth. But obviously we don't want this lip here, this drop off. So I'm just going to use the chisel to take off some of the bigger pieces, save me from having to work too long on it. It just gives you a little rough idea. That's what I'm going to do. Work that down, take that edge off that all the way around on both sides, and then from there just a little light rasping and a lot of sanding, and this thing should be just about 100% complete at that point. Well, there she is. She's completely roughed in, and run the rasp over it. You see here I've run the chisel down this piece and taken that flare off that was there, and then just ran the rasp around it. And if you look down it, you're going to see that there's as you're working your handle, make sure you keep the symmetry, keep the sides equal. What you do to one side, do to the other. Try to keep it so it's evenly shaped as it comes down, so that when the axe head sets on there, that it's going to be balanced, good and even. And there's the hole right down the middle. So now all I'm going to do is put the head on, make a wedge, and hang it, and sandpaper this to make it smoother, and we'll be done. Well, here we are. I've got it all sanded. I've made myself a wedge. All I need to do now is hang the axe head, and this axe will be finished. I'm going to set the axe head, and I'm going to hammer this in, and then I'll show you the finished product. There's the axe head. Drove the wedge in, cut it off flush. And there is the new axe head, or the old axe head that I refurbished on a new handle. And now you can just go ahead and treat the handle with whatever you wish, and put it to work. That's my low-cost axe handle. You can do on your own. Certainly, as you can tell, I'm not a professional, but it's a lot of fun to do. It takes only a few hours, and it's a great project for the homestead.